My guest today is Pitof, who started his career in 1976 as a photographer, assistant director, and editor of films and commercials. He then branched out into musical scoring as well as software and graphic design. Now, he is a pioneer of digital imaging in France, and Pitof made his debut in visual effects in 1986 and co-founded of Duran Duboi, the digital post-production company in France. He then achieved the first French software for digital visual effects used in feature films. And in 1994, he won the Technical Grand Prize for visual effects at the Cannes Film Festival for his work in Dead Tired. And he went on to direct commercials and short films, most notably the award-winning A Tribute to Jesse Owens and Carl Lewis in 1996. And a year later, he took on the role of second unit director for Jean-Pierre Jeune's Alien Resurrection. But then in 2001, Viduch, starring Gerard Depardieu, premiered in France, and it was Pitof's feature film directorial debut and the first feature film ever made in high definition. And this year marks the 20th anniversary of the film Catwoman for Warner Brothers, starring Halle Berry and Sharon Stone. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome visionary filmmaker Pitof to the show. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, I really loved doing some research on your background, and your career in creative arts spans decades. How did you become interested in the visual arts?
Actually, it's really since I was a kid. I was always into vision, even though, back then we didn't have TV. I mean, it's a really, I was like maybe 5 or 6. My great grandmother, I was living in Paris, and my great grandmother has one of the first TV. And it was a black and white TV. And, the airing was like you have like 2 hours between around noon and 2 or 3 hours around 8 p.m. So it was very, very limited. But there were a few series, and I remember one series, American series called The Indians, and it was like a Western kind of course with Indians, and the hero were the Indians. And I love this series so much. It's really the first thing I saw, and that's really still have a really a vivid memory. And we had another one TV series, Thierry Lafronde. It was like a period piece, black of course, black and white and kind of cheesy, but super not superhero, but a sword and sandal fun. So I really and I don't know if it's what the first thing that drove me to visual, but that's the earliest memories I have of something visual that really caught my attention.
Yeah.
And then, so the my mother was an artist. I mean, she was working for a clothing company for kids called Petit Bateau. It's still the thing is still here, and she was designing clothes for the kids. And so I always grew up in this kind of arts. Even my father wasn't in that industry at all. I grew up in that thing with art. And my first, of course, I did some lesson how to draw and all that stuff, like art academy for kids. But what really appealed me was photography. And when I was like 12 or something, I bought my first camera, film, of course, film camera, and I have my film lab in the basement in a house, and I spend night and nights developing film, and printing photos and stuff, and that's really how it started. And then I never stopped on that.
Yeah, I can relate. I grew up with a black and white television. We only had three channels to choose from.
Mm.
And then those networks would go off the air at midnight and wouldn't come back on until about 6 a.m. And then even my father, who was an amateur photographer, he turned our bathroom into a development lab and
Yeah.
locked us out. So yeah, so I can kind of relate to what you grew up with. But for you, how did you come to pioneer digital imaging and the digital visual effects in France?
So it's kind of a long and short story at the same time. So my first job in the movie industry. So the connection is my first thing was to be a photographer, but I loved movies. I grew up in Paris, and in Paris we had movie theaters at pretty much at every corner. So I really grew up in the dark room, for the photography dark room and screening dark room. And but I was kind of limited by the still image. I wanted to have like a motion picture, motion images, and tell stories throughout movements more than still photography. Yeah. So that drove me to movies. And my first job my first job as a student was photographer and assistant photographer. And then through that, I met a guy who was a film editor and proposed me to be apprentice and to see if how I would love a movie, because my thing was to be a director. When you want to make movies, you want to be either an actor or a director, because that's the only thing you can, from outside you can see. Okay, either you act or you direct, maybe both. But I've never been attracted by acting. So my thing to how to become a director, and in my family, I didn't have any connection with the movie industry. And so when I met this guy who was a film editor, I told him, "What do you think is a good way a good path to be a director?" Because back then they're not really film school in France. We have two film schools, one for DP, for director of photography, and the other one for directors, and writers, but very, very like yeah, pretentious, intellectual. It was really not my thing, so I didn't want to go that route. And so this guy told me, editing is a good way to start, because it's like a hub on the movie. You can really learn a lot through editing. So he took me as an apprentice, and then that's how I really started in the film industry. And later on, I wanted to be a director, so a way to get there was through commercials and corporate videos, and it was the beginning of video, actually. So it was in the early '80s, and so I did some commercial and corporate videos on films, on 16 millimeter, 35 millimeter, and then in video. But at that time, video was horrible. I hated the image. Like anybody coming from the film industry, from the film texture, the texture of the video was like an eyesore. So the first video I directed was a commercial for Fiat, the car Fiat, and then my obsession was to have a different type of image. So I put a stocking on the lens, to get this blurry kind of softness, to take out the edgy sharpness of the video. So I did a whole commercial like that with very soft light and so on. I kind of liked it. And then when I started to edit and to make, and I did a bunch of commercials and and corporate videos for fashion, for makeup, and so I was really into beauty. And also, when I was doing the editing on these videos, I start to really play with technology, because I'm always been loving technology. Yeah. And so I tried to. But back then you have a switcher, all the buttons. So I learned how to deal with the buttons and try to do effects. But then it was kind of limited, always. And one so and I was so at that time I really gave up a little bit on my career as a director, because I had more fun doing visual effects and directing. Because I was not in the film industry for real. I was at commercials and stuff like that. So it's not, as a director, it's not something I wanted to do. But as I was more attracted into the technological aspect of things. And then I dig into the how can I deal with electronic image, how I can play with that. And so a friend of mine who was a producer told me, maybe we should set up a company together, and do visual effects, commercial, whatever. So what do you think would be a good equipment to start a post-production company? And it was in '85, and then so I started to do some research, and I heard about this new machine that nobody knew really about, called the Harry, from an English company called Quantel. And the Harry with the paint box. So you have two tools: the paint box, which was like a Photoshop for video, and the Harry. And the Harry was like a Premiere kind of, early stage of Premiere. But you could do editing, and you could do a little video, effects with it, but it was digital, meaning that you have no limit. You can do more and more, no limit, and that really that struck me. And I said, "What? That's the very future. The future of visual effects is in digital." And then, so I was the first convincing I convinced my partner, and I was the first to buy this machine. And back then it was $1 million, so it's a lot of money. I mean, they're super expensive. And we start to use the machine for commercials. And because I was the first, I was the best, of course.
Well, yeah, because it would open up a brand new industry by bringing in a piece of equipment, knowing how to use it that nobody else had. So your visual effects, the look that you're creating for clients with commercials stands out above everybody else.
Yeah, exactly. And it was, and it was the era of the late 80s, early 90s was really the big boom of creativity for music videos, for commercial, for everything. And the budget was like no limits. Really, the agency was like it's an open table. Hey guys, we want the best thing ever. Spend whatever you have to spend. And it was the best time ever.
Well, was the short film a tribute to Jesse Owens and Carl Lewis? Was that your first film?
Yeah, it was kind of my first short film. Yeah, I was not really into short film back then, but I had this opportunity to do this parallel between Jesse Owen and Carl Lewis, and this it was a short film that was a as an introduction for the Olympics for Atlanta, and so and I really enjoyed it because it's a technology and storytelling because it was a virtual race between Jesse Owen and Carl Lewis. Yeah, and because it was in '96, the Olympics. I think yes,
Yeah,
it was in
96.
in Atlanta, and Jesse Owens was in '36 in Berlin, and won in front of Hitler. The 100 meters. And so it was a very symbolic race back then. So the whole point was to do like a quick history, a line between Jesse Owens and Carl Lewis, and see how the world had been, what was the evolution of the world between these two men, and yeah, that was a kind of a fun thing to do.
And I guess you were able to use your own equipment to create the visual effects for that.
Yeah, exactly. So it's all about visual effects and create a vision of how you go through the image of time. Actually, it was made of a lot of stock footage of events between Jesse Owens and Carl Lewis, and it was going through the image as you go through time. So it was kind of a fun thing to do.
But what was the reaction from not only the Olympics, but maybe a public reaction to that film to see two men 60 years apart racing each other?
Yeah, but people first, just a few people knew about Jesse Owens, so now it's more familiar. But back then, most of the people didn't know who he was and what achievements he did. Winning in front of Hitler. So first, people were very interested to know about that, and yeah, to share this I think it's like a few minutes, and share this few minutes of of going through time, like in a quick time machine, and people really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think they should have shown it at this year's Olympics.
Yeah, they should.
I mean, since it was in Paris, that would have been a perfect piece to show of the decades of the Olympics itself. I mean, I remember. I mean, I know who Jesse Owens is,
Uh-huh.
and I know the story when he won and stood on the podium right before Hitler. I mean, that is probably one of the most iconic sports stories in history, especially with the Olympics. Now, for you, you had your directorial feature film debut with the film Vi Dutch with Gerard Depardieu. How did
Mhm.
this actual film become the first film ever made in high definition?
So the story of this film is, I wanted to be a director. So the big thing before that was Alien. So I've been
That's
working
right.
with who did Amelie, and before that he did the City of Lost Children, Delicatessen, who are really very famous art movies, French art movies. And Jean-Pierre got the job of Alien Resurrection because the studio Fox back then loved his work on the City of Lost Children, and I did all the visual effects for Jean-Pierre Jeune since the very early days when he was doing commercial as well, and that's how we met. And then music videos, and when he did his first feature film, Delicatessen, he asked me to do the visual effects. And this Delicatessen was the first movie in France with digital visual effects. And then his next movie was The City of Lost Children, a very, very like fantasy, bizarre, type of movie, but beautiful and same. A lot of visual effects was involved in this movie. And then when Fox hired Genet for Alien, and because they really loved The City of Lost Children, they asked Genet to come with his crew. And so he broke his DP, he broke his editor, and he brought me as a visual effects supervisor. And when we start shooting Alien, the studio wanted Jean-Pierre to have like usually have a second director for the movies. On these big movies, all the shots with the lead role with the stars has to be shot by the director, of course. And then all the rest of the shots, the close up, the action scene, the stunt, whatever that doesn't involve the stars, are usually shot by the second unit director to free the main director to do other things and to go fast on the schedule. But Jean-Pierre didn't want to work with an American director. For one reason is Jean-Pierre didn't speak a word of English. Yet he knew zero English. Besides yes and no, that was it. So to work with the crew, he has an interpreter who was, talking in real time, was translating in real time back and forth. So it was not it worked, but not very easy. And to work with a second director, he wanted to have somebody close to him because he has a very visual style and stuff. And I know the guy by heart. So he really tried to convince the studio to have me as a secondary director, which was a stretch because I wasn't DGA. I was, foreign and all that stuff. So it was complicated, but the studio accepted it. So I did a test one night. So one night they asked me to shoot some shots of the alien and to see how I can, how I could deal with the crew and everything. And the studio loved the shots, and then it was history. And then I became the second director of Alien. And at the end, I directed maybe almost half of the movie because you have a lot of shots, all the spaceship, all the aliens fighting together, blah blah. The birth of the newborn alien with the queen. I shot all this scene myself. So when I came back to France, I was really like now I had a solid, feeling that I could be a director on my own. And my units, my second unit in Los Angeles was bigger than any first unit in France. So I was really confident. No, now I'm really I can do the job. So I start to look for scripts to be a director. And one day I have this producer I knew I've been working with before, uh, told me, okay, I have this script of Vidocq, and Vidocq is a very famous character in France. Vidocq is like the French Sherlock Holmes. So he was in the early 1800 and he was a real guy. I mean, he was a real character who was an ex-con and became chief of the police. And he's really that's a real story. And he's really the police. He really he developed the modern police. He was the first to do like a research, like a CIS. He was the first CIS back then, and he wrote his memoir. So and there was a TV series about him in the 70s. So he was a very famous character in France. And so my friend told me, oh, so I have this movie, the script about Vidocq, but there's a lot of visual effects involved in it, and I'm not sure that in France we are able to do that. Maybe I should go to Hollywood and find people to do that. So please give me your honest feeling about it. So and at first I told him, Vidocq, I grew up with Vidocq. I love the character. I read a lot of things about Vidocq. So it's really, and now I want to be a director. So this is exactly the movie I would like to direct. And the guy told me, I didn't think about it. So give me, let me think. And a week later, the guy called me and said, here's a script. Please read it as a director. And that's really how it really started. And so the movie so happened in the 1830 in Paris. So it's really like a period piece. And as a first movie, I was not keen to make a period piece. Because in France, I mean, the tradition of period piece or kind of, we have so many movies, bad and good, and I was really more into sci-fi and stuff like that. So it would have been my first choice, but I had the thing. I was very happy to do it, and so I wanted to find a twist, to find something to make it more modern, and to find a way to bring something that make Vidocq special. That's something you haven't seen before. So I start to think, okay, let's how can we see a sci-fi movie in the past, like a retro futuristic kind of thing. So my whole thing, okay, let's assume that in the mid 1800 we were there was movies and stuff like that. How would you think about like a futuristic sci-fi thing? So, and of course, the source of inspiration are the painters. So I started to do a lot of research from the painting, the painter from the mid the 1850s about, to find very specific type, and there's plenty of them. And then so I get really inspired, and then okay, I will use that to create this very very like a futuristic in the past kind of thing. And then I wanted to give the image something special, something I haven't seen before. And because I was really very into visual effects, digital and stuff, I've seen the Sony cameras over the years evolving, and and at first it was really like a few seconds in HD, and then it became minutes, and then Sony released their first HD camera, so it was in 2000. And because I use Sony for visual effects, I knew people in front at Sony, and I asked them, I really would like to try this new Sony camera digital to see how it looks, because I have these feature films, and I want to see if it's possible. And the guy told me, yeah, I mean, but it's a prototype. We have the camera, but it's not available yet. But we have one camera who is, traveling the world to do demos. So of course you can check it. So the guy sent me the camera. I did a bunch of tests with the camera, and I put in parallel a film camera, a 35, 60 millimeter, the digital camera, a small camera. So I wanted to have a real spectre of how it looks in film, because the screening would be in film. And and by the way, which is the funny thing is, the camera I got, the Sony camera, I checked on the thing, and the serial number was 0001. So I really had the very very first one for the test. And we developed the all the tests, screened them on film, and it was really something. Really, the image that the Sony camera gave was something very special, very different from what we got from film. And then I say, yeah, we got it. So that's really the look I want I want for the movie. And then finally I convinced Sony to give us I mean to rent us, the new the few the new edition of the camera, because now the camera started to be for real, and we had the very very first number then for the shooting, where we had three cameras, two for shooting and one for spare, and that's what we did at the beginning. And
So so that so that Sony camera was a digital camera?
yeah. Yeah, so the first digital camera HD, because yeah, Sony was doing, like, of course, SD camera, video camera, but this one was the very very first HD high definition camera compatible with film, playing 24 frames per second, and film. I mean, and later on they called it digital cinema. That was really designed for movies, and that the camera that George Lucas used for Star Wars after. And so VDoc, I shot VDoc before Star Wars, and I used the movie for the whole movie. Where on Star Wars, the movie was not shot entirely with digital. You have a mix between film and digital, where VDoc was the very first movie to be shot entirely on digital.
That I think in America, I think the first director to use digital cameras for a feature film was Spike Lee in America.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the year that he started that, because he was amazed that the cameras were so much smaller than the
Yeah.
film cameras, and he felt that you could do so much more with them.
Mm-hmm.
And even this year, I have been amazed that even with some of the new short films that have come out this year, a lot of people have stepped back and started doing short films in 16 millimeter, 8
Mm-hmm.
millimeter, 35 millimeter, in actual film. And for a lot of them, it's not easy to do because there's not a whole lot of film to buy.
No, no, and the whole process, the whole, and also the quality of the image, how you get, the best from the film. I mean, you have no coming back. On the video, you can always tweak, and if the exposure is not right, you can play with. With film,
Well, when you use the Sony digital camera and being the first to use this type of technology, did it make post production easier?
no, it makes everything more complicated. Yeah, because we have to invent the tool, because there's no tool back then. I mean, I mean, the everything has to be developed. And but I had the experience for that, because I developed visual effects for movies early on. So I really had, so I had my software, I had everything pre-designed for that. But of course, it's all to adapt to the new workflow, the new pipeline you have to deal with. So it wasn't easy at that time. Now it's much easier. But back then it was a part of a lab to figure out what the best way to do it, and to really assess the risk, because everything, when you make a movie, it's a risk. Everything is a risk, and the whole thing is in assessing the risk, and try to find line where you push the envelope, not too much because you want to be in trouble, but you want to push the envelope as far as you can.
Now, I understand that it is now the 20th anniversary of Catwoman with Halle Berry and Sharon Stone. How did you get the call to direct that film?
So the call was because of Vidoc. So Vidoc, has this fame back then, being the first movies, blah blah, and again had a bunch of a prize, awards and stuff. So of course I was the hot guy in France, and the agents in Los Angeles were always attracted by something hot and new. So they start to call me, to invite me in LA. So I did a bunch of trips to meet people in studios, producer, and so. And that's how I stumbled upon Catwoman, and I got the offer.
Well, was the visual effects in the movie, were those from your own company?
No, 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 no. It was no, no. So back then, I quit my I quit. Yeah, I kind of quit my company because I didn't want to be involved in visual effects only, and I wanted to really to go to be a director. It was my dream as a kid to be a director. So I left the visual effects part aside to be a director, and I really want to be because I was the VFX guy, and I wanted to get rid of this VFX image.
Man, well, that makes sense. Now, with Catwoman, what was the casting process like? Was Halle Berry already signed to the project before you came on, or after?
No, after. So we had a bunch of different, actresses that the studio may wanted, and so it was like always, a long process, and then Halle Berry became, like an obvious choice, for many reasons, and so I was really pushing. When her name became in sight, I really pushed for Halle because for me, I mean, it was the obvious choice to bring to the character. First, of course, I mean, it's Halle Berry, she's beautiful and everything, but the fact that she was black, pushed back to Eartha Kitt's, and to bring a lot of depth. I mean, to me, the personality of Halle Berry was the way to bring a lot of different depths in the character.
Yeah, I thought it was a great choice because, like I said before we did our interview, I actually rewatched Catwoman a few days ago just to kind of rewatch the whole thing and to think back what filmmaking was like 20 years ago. And with you being the director of the film, what was it like working with Halle Berry and Sharon Stone?
Fun. A lot of fun. Yeah. And the first thing is these two women are really opposite. That's really, you have, for everything. And I was lucky enough that they liked me both. So, and the first encounter with Sean was really fun because of course, so first it was Halle who was introduced to me. So, and when I met Halle with my producer, with her manager, and it was like like two kids, like like the parents bring the kid together to see if they get along. So that's really was the I mean the impression, not the impression, but the joke about the meeting. It was like really like like think about two kids that parents want to meet, and then to let them on the playground. That was really the thing. And
Well,
we found the opposite. So back then, so of course I was in a hotel, and so the thing was to meet Sharon for a drink, and the drink became a dinner. So she came to my hotel. It was a fancy hotel in Hollywood, and so I knew everybody in the hotel. So I told them, tonight I have a dinner with Sharon so and so. Please welcome her. Of course, of course, of course, of course. And so she came to the table by the pool, really very romantic Hollywood stuff. And so and we talk. I mean, and we had a nice talk for an hour, talking about nothing but about the movie, of course, just about life, art, Paris, France, and she loves France. And so we had a nice moment, and then she said, "Okay, it was very nice to meet you. Bye bye," and then she left. Like a star,
well, what was it? What was it like on set to direct both of them?
So yeah, I mean, it was easy actually. It was very easy because the character was really designed around them. So the character of Catwoman was really around Halle Berry, and the character of the bad guy was really around what Sean can bring. So on that matter, it was very easy because it was really playing with them in their bandwidth. So that was, and you know, and in these big movies, it's easy. I mean, it's when you have time, you have space, you have a big crew. Uh, um, it's Drafting is not easy, but you know, you have the foundation to work, to have your time to really take the time to discuss, to rehearse. So I think it's easier in this condition than on a independent movie when you have no time and you have to rush so of course it can bring something positive as well to work in a rush, but working in comfort is kind of not that bad actually.
Well, how long did it take to film Catwoman?
A long time. I think we start shooting end of September, and we wrapped end of February. So it's like 5 months, something like that. 4 or 5
Wow,
months.
that's a pretty long time considered how long it takes them to do films today, which I've seen features filmed in little as 21 to 28 days.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, of course. Or you can shoot in or in 2 weeks. But it's a big machine. So this type of movie, per day, you do like a few pages per day because the everything was not everything, but lot of thing was on set. So you have to build a set, to design, so it's a long process, very long process.
So was there more of a set design for Catwoman, or did you also use green screen?
There's not that much green screen. I mean, there's a few green screen, but not much. It was really built. It was really, really, back then, things were built. Everything was solid.
That's right. That it was actually built back in the day. Now looking back at Catwoman, is there anything in the film that you would change today?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the script. The thing is, to me, that's really the script. Like we all know, it's a process, and especially on Catwoman, the script was the thing that didn't run really smoothly. The rest was amazing, but the script, the whole process was kind of like not that good.
Yeah, because when I rewatched the film, like I said a few days ago, I kept looking at it and thinking I would I would have almost made Sharon Stone in the very beginning of the film the head of the cosmetics company and made her the major villain from the very beginning.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no, I agree. I mean, it's and the whole thing of is the beauty industry strong enough for a superhero? You have a lot of questions. You can you can when you rewatch the movie and to make it stronger. But back then to have a lead female action hero was already a big stretch. And to have a two lead character, two female, it would have been fantastic. Like, don't get me wrong. I would have loved to have these two ladies. I mean, a face off and the two or the boss. I would have loved that, yeah, for sure.
Now, why was there never a sequel to Catwoman?
I don't know. I mean, I think the way that the first was done didn't lead really to a properly to a sequel. I mean, because of course it was the ending is kind of open, and you
Yeah.
can think, but the there was not really a strong foundation to do from the beginning. The way the story went, I mean, it was kind of a spin-off for sure, but the script has been rewritten so many times, tweaked and all that at the end there's no one clear vision saying, okay, that's the story of Catwoman, and that's where we want to go further down the line. And that's why when you ask me what will I change, it's really the script from the beginning and beyond the script to really to sit and think, okay, who is Catwoman? Where do we want to go? well, who is she for real? And let's think about the few like in the next decades how we can make an evolution with Catwoman, to really build foundation for Catwoman. Where here it was pretty much like a one-off. I mean, let's try that and see how it works without a long-term vision. That's what's missing to me.
Well, in 20 years ago, they all the studios weren't jumping on the superhero bandwagon like they do today, pulling all of the DC and the Marvel
Mm.
characters onto the big screen. And to me, Halle Berry hasn't even really aged at all. So if they ever did a sequel to Catwoman, they could just call her up and do another one.
I agree. I agree. I'm sure she will be happy to do it.
Well, for you, Pitof, are there any new projects that you're allowed to talk about that you may be working on now?
Yeah, so now my new fascination, I'm not the only one to do that, to think about that, is AI, of course. And I'm really turning into like a sci-fi, and I want to explore AI in different perspective. And so I had two projects, they're really early stage. One is like utopian, like sci-fi with AI. Trying to have the most positive way of thinking. What can we do with AI, and how far we can go, and how the life can be better if we know how to use AI. That's one I want to go, and the other ones are for a series, and the other one for a feature film. The opposite, how things can go wrong with AI, and what's the yeah, how can things can go wrong, and will not AI will take over, but how we can you know fight, and be with AI, and maybe not survive. So it's really, I like to explore these two ends.
Well, do you think that the fear that Hollywood has about AI, do you think it's justified?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean the fear. I mean the things are happening now. Should we build fear? Yes and no. I mean, to me, the AI is, because it's not just for movies, but the AI is like the transition between horse and cars. Everything has shifted. And the people who are dealing with horses has to find a new job. I mean, within a car or in different industry, but you have to reinvent yourself and use whatever's coming, because it's for the good, or at least try to make it for the good. So I think with AI we have a similar transition on every aspect on our lives. So of course it is always like good and bad, positive, negative, and the thing is to find how you can find yourself using AI, and be positive with it, and be find good things to do for us, for yourself, and for others. And I think AI is an amazing tool for that, but very dangerous. And speaking of Hollywood and the entertainment industry, of course, we see, and I follow that every day, and I'm amazed that every day you have something new. Every week you have a new software, a new product, a new development, a new thing that makes the AI going faster and faster. Like ChatGPT. I mean, who had thought a year ago that ChatGPT can do jobs and take jobs on its own. Now ChatGPT is in the next iPhone. I mean, so that means that it will be part of our lives, whether you want or not. So I mean, and in Hollywood, yes, I mean now you have like prompt to image, prompt to video, then it will be prompt to movies. you know.
Yeah, I think the biggest fear with AI is everyone does not want to lose that human element, that human touch that film needs. And I can understand why AI is causing a lot of ripples and fear in Hollywood because it's an unknown, uncharted territory, and we just have to see where it goes because someone's going to start pushing the envelope on AI. But I just want film to still have a little bit of a human element, human touch to it in its final product.
Yeah, so I'm really I'm hopeful for that because like horses, it's the same thing. Horses, you still have horses. Horses are not dead, and you use horses for whatever it's fun. So you can ride a horse and go in the countryside, or you can do sports. You can play polo. I mean, it's a horse is not dead. So I think that if we need it, we'll still have movies shot on film or with people and have not AI or CG characters playing the role for you. You will be the part of it. I think it's something new. It's that it adds up. Same when we went from painting to photography. So it's people keep doing painting, and when we went from photography to movies, okay, we still do photography. So it's an ad more than something that destroys other things. And so yeah, you will have AI, but I think it's to me the way I see AI in the future is really as a tool for storytelling. It's interactive storytelling because we are stories. We are made of stories. The whole human nature is to enjoy stories, to tell stories, to listen to stories, to play with stories. We are stories. So you have different ways to make stories. I mean, you read a book, you see a movie, you think, then you will have like an AI making a movie for you. I mean, if you're bored and if you want like if you ask your grandma, as a kid, you were asking your grandma, okay, please, grandma, tell me the story again of the red Riding Hood. And
Yeah.
so your grandma will change the story depending because maybe she's bored to tell the whole story with the wolf and the red so the girl, so she will modify the story for you, right? And so I think with AI it could be the same thing. You can ask the AI, okay, I want a story about a cowboy doing this and this and this and this, and then the AI will tell you a story about that. So it's more to me. That's how I see the fun way to use AI. But then one day you want to hear a story from somebody else, or you want to have a real story. Then you will look for a story told by a real human, shot on film or Super 8 or whatever, because you want to have this feel. So I think it's really what is important is to define what does what. So if you try to use the AI to do a romantic comedy, like a Hallmark, fine, because it's a very specific thing. Whatever is written by an AI or by a writer, honestly, it doesn't really matter. I mean, it's because it's such a formula. You know, like what Netflix is doing. I mean, they're doing formulas, so they want to develop things that people want to watch. So that's where AI come into play because it's about formatting. What will the studio do? I mean, they ask a writer to write like that. They ask, we want to do a Batman versus whatever. So you need to understand who is Batman, who is whatever, and how to mix them. So it's something an AI will do better than any writer because the AI won't have an ego and will do the job exactly how you want because it's a format. You know what I mean? Now you want to write a bio, a pick about this character and bring something special, or then I would rather work with a writer because to have something more human that an AI may not feel, and to have something that an AI for now can't bring. So now I don't know how long this thing will work, but at least for the next few decades, I hope that we still will have this human touch that the AI will never get there. Will simulate things, but will never be able to give this unexpected, this thing that you can think. Like exactly like when you have based on a true story. It's a shift of that. You can be an amazing writer. You will write a story that's from your imagination, and then okay, that could be incredible. And then you have these things based on a true story, where we say we would never think, we never believe that in a movie. So because in a true story things happen. If I saw the movie, if I saw a writer do that, I would never trust. I would think it's impossible to think about, because because the it's organic, because it's something that is not. It's real life. It's real. So that's, to me, that's the difference between what AI will bring, that between the, which is very formulated, very very specific. It's a recipe, whatever, Hallmark or Star Wars, like six star. I mean, I don't want to feel bad with Hallmark. I love Hallmark movies anyway, because it's a genre. It's a thing like a horror movie. Like a horror movie is a genre. Same thing. I think like AI will do the best horror movie you can see, because it's a recipe, because it's work by timing, by thing, by it's a professional thing, where if you want to bring a soul, something special, then you have to be human. So that's where AI to me is going, and
Yeah, and
for the good
I
reasons.
yeah, and I get that because especially in the world of streaming,
Hmm.
Netflix and Hulu and Prime and all of these other companies have to put out so much content because the public gets bored of seeing the same old thing. So they've got to create new content. They
Hmm.
have to find a way to continue to cut cost. And like you said, there are certain formulas that they could actually use for AI to speed the process up versus other stories, like you said, that would need a human touch
Hmm.
to make it better for the public to watch and understand. So, yeah, I think for the next few years, we're going to see a tug of war between the use of AI. So, we'll just have to stand back and just see where it goes.
Yeah, yes. Same for music. Look at, and music has always been ahead of movies in terms of technology, because the technology in music is simpler than technology for movies. So, like, like now you can really have music, AI doing music in a way that you can't even think. And so this weekend I have a friend who did a short film, and the composer did the music, and we had a little screening, and at the end we had a Q&A, and the composer said, the whole music, of course I composed the music and did no AI, but in the movie you have this moment where the couple is in a bar, and you can hear music from the bar. It's a blues, really a bluegrass blues, and he said the blues came from an AI. And I didn't say to my friend, yeah, maybe it was the best part of the movie. I didn't say that. But the blues, and I heard the blues, and I said, wow. My thing was, I heard the blues, and I said, "Wow, that's a good blues." I mean, I guess the guy has a nice, a nice time doing it. When you're a musician, sometimes you like to do some to play with friends, and do like a jam session. And the thing looked like a book of jam. So I imagine that the guy brought a bunch of friends, some guitar and blah blah, and did a jam, and then played the jam for the movie. That's what I thought when I heard the thing, and no, it was AI. So yeah. So that's coming. So that means that it is here. So to be able to do something that will please people and will be exactly what people want to hear or to watch in the genre. I think it's a no-brainer. A no-brainer. It's coming, and very soon.
Well, it's going to be interesting to watch. And I want to thank you so much, Pitof, for coming on to the program today and
Thank
sharing your
you.
background and the insights on all of the films you've worked on. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, it's the 20th anniversary of Catwoman, starring Halle Berry and Sharon Stone. And Pitof, I can't wait to see what you come up with next.
Yeah, me too. Thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, hey, as I always say, I'll either see you at the movies or from the red carpet.